here's Brody Brazil.
This will be the second and probably final video I will make about the 2025 World Series. In the first one, I simply did takeaways, and my main point was this. We may have just witnessed the most entertaining World Series matchup ever. Now, I can't say that for certain. How could we ever compare it to, say, something that happened in the 1920s? None of us were around for that. But in terms of just entertainment value, it has to be matched up there with any other fall classic that's ever existed. But I can tell you there are some crazy numbers and facts and stats and takeaways that really do make this World Series one of a kind. And that's what I'm going to get to in this video. I'll focus more on the actualities of what happened, what we just witnessed, and what made it so special. By the way, all of this statistical information comes from Major League Baseball and their research department at MLB Network. I have simply curated all of this for the purpose of a video. Saturday's contest, the Game 7, was tied with the 1997 Game 7 for the longest Game 7 in World Series history in terms of innings, only behind the Senators versus Giants of 1924, which went a dozen innings in Game 7 to decide the World Series. So the second longest inning-wise Game 7 of Major League Baseball history in the World Series. This was just the third World Series all-time to end on a double play, joining the 1947 and 1921 Fall Classics. And it's also interesting because Game 6, famously or infamously, ended on a double play, depending on which side you're rooting for, and Game 7 also ended on a double play. That ground ball to Mookie Betts, stepped on second, threw to first. That was what clinched it officially for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So a World Series rarely ends in a Game 7 on a double play, but it did here in 2025. The Dodgers are just the third team to win a World Series winner-take-all game in which they trailed entering the ninth inning. So a Game 7, a winner-take-all situation, the Dodgers are just the third team ever to win a World Series where they trailed entering the ninth. Teams entering that scenario have a 3-33 record. So of the 36 times that a team was facing what the Dodgers were, only 3 times has that team prevailed. The Dodgers are one of those teams. Goes to show you how close the Blue Jays were, how this was not decided until literally the final 2 outs or 1 out, or the final opportunities for both sides, and the Dodgers prevail. There were 146 total innings thrown in this World Series. That's the second most all-time in a World Series, behind the 147 2/3 innings pitched, thrown in the 1912 World Series, which, by the way, also featured 8 games. Now, the 2025 World Series had an 18-inning game, counts as 1, has the amount of innings as 2. That's why we got so close. We were fewer than 2 innings away from having the most innings pitched in a World Series. And obviously 1 long extra inning game, 1 Game 7 with extra innings, so you can see why the innings got up there. But this was all about pitching. And that's why there's, a battle of attrition with pitching in the postseason, and are your arms healthy? In this case, pitching for the Dodgers, and especially their core 4 starters, made a huge difference in the innings they were able to throw and how well they were able to pitch, for the most part, in the World Series. But one of the longest World Series innings-wise ever, since 1912, more than 100 years ago. Will Smith, Dodgers catcher, caught 73 innings in the World Series, which surpasses Lou Krieger, 71 innings across, again, 8 games. They used to have 8 games in the World Series in 1903, for the most ever in a World Series. Will Smith has caught the most innings of a World Series ever, 73 innings. He surpasses the prior record of more than 120 years by 2 innings. Smith's 11th inning blast was the first extra inning home run ever hit in a winner-take-all World Series game. And when you really think about the context here of how many World Series matchups there have been across more than 120 years, and how many of them went to a winner-take-all Game 7 situation, and how many of those games went to an extra inning situation, and how many times has somebody homered in those extra innings? Only once. Will Smith did it here in 2025. Just goes to show you the, again, historical context of how unique, maybe how special, how interesting this World Series was in 2025. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is the first pitcher to win 3 games in a single World Series since Randy Johnson did it back in 2001. He's the first pitcher ever with 3 road wins in a World Series. And you come to expect that if you have a start early in a World Series, you're probably going to get a second opportunity to win a game. So 2 might be the max. But in this case, Yamamoto came in for Game 7. He records wins in both Game 6 and Game 7. And remember, he almost pitched. If that Game 3 went longer than 18 innings, he was probably going to pitch in that one too. It is crazy how many opportunities he had, how he was always ready, and how he gets 3 wins in a 7-game series. He joins Randy Johnson, Harry Brecheen, and Ray Kramer of 1925 as the only pitchers to win Games 6 and 7 in a World Series, and is the first to do so, obviously, on the road. All 3 of those were road wins. 3 wins recorded to a single pitcher in a 7-game series. It's rare that that opportunity even presents itself. That's the type of history that Yoshinobu Yamamoto made. Again, he also threw a complete game in Game 2, his first win of the World Series. Yoshinobu Yamamoto earned a win in 9 different months this baseball season. That's hard to do, number one, because how many teams play a game in March as well as November? But March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. That's the 9 months he won a single game in every single month. Think about that for a second. The longevity, the ability to stay healthy, the ability to win a game every single month, the consistency of all the stats and figures from the World Series and a season that went so well for Yamamoto, that might be the most impressive one. A win in 9 different months of a baseball season. Yamamoto's complete game of Game 2 was the first thrown in a World Series since 2015. How many complete games do we see in the Fall Classic? Not many, and it's been 10 years since the last one. Yamamoto's first 2 MLB complete games were Game 2 of the NLCS against the Brewers, and in the World Series, also Game 2, this time against the Toronto Blue Jays. Yoshinobu Yamamoto was the MVP of the World Series, and for good reason, but very well could have been MVP of the entire postseason for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Teams had been 0-42 this postseason when trailing, entering the 9th inning prior to LA's Game 7 comeback. You think about all the teams, all the matchups, 0-42 when trailing, entering the 9th. Playoff baseball usually involves good pitching, good defense, substitutions, matchups that are thoroughly thought through, and once the door is starting to become very much shut, if not almost closed, teams are usually able to close that door. Well, the Dodgers came back in the 43rd chance. 0 for 42, how about 1 for 43? Or 1 in 42, probably the better way to look at it. The Dodgers' 54 comeback wins, including the postseason this year, set a franchise record. Of all the wins in their regular season and postseason run, no Dodger team has ever had more comeback wins in a season, and I guess fitting that they also make this comeback in Game 7 to win it all. The Dodgers became just the 9th team ever to win Games 6 and 7 of a World Series on the road. Let me say that again, just the 9th team ever to take 6 and 7 on the road and obviously win it all. It had been done just twice in the past 45 years before 2025. So going back to the early 80s, just twice. Now, how many teams have this opportunity to be down, right? Obviously 3-2, and then come back and win the final 2 games, 6 and 7 on the road. But the fact that it has only happened twice before the Dodgers here just did it, winning Games 6 and 7 on the road to take an entire World Series. To be down by a game, to be facing elimination, to have to go on the road and win the next 2, the final 2 to win the World Series, only twice before in the prior 45 years. The Dodgers have won 11 of 14 winner-take-all postseason games since moving to Los Angeles in 1958. Now, how does that apply to what we just witnessed? Not much. Different players, different situations, but the fans, Dodger fans who have been around for a long time, have to be feeling pretty good about just the historical sense, and when it comes down to a winner-take-all postseason game, they've now won a majority of those, 11 of 14, including this one for the World Series. It's interesting, though. The Dodgers hit just .203 for batting average in the World Series. That's the lowest team batting average by any club that won the Fall Classic since the 1966 Baltimore Orioles, who batted .200, who hit for the Mendoza line in 1966. The Dodgers did hit some home runs. The Dodgers did have some clutch hits and clutch situations, obviously. But the Dodgers as a team in the World Series hit just .203 for average. Los Angeles had one homer with a runner on base over their final 14 playoff games. 17 of their final 18 dingers in the postseason were solo shots. And I say this two ways. Number one, you're hitting home runs. That's good for the club. That's usually going to garner success. But solo home runs versus multiple run homers are almost like bad luck. Oh, you hit that homer, but nobody was on. You didn't get 2 runs out of it, 3 runs out of it, or heck, a grand slam, 4 runs out of it. Solo homers are almost like, I don't want to say a wasted opportunity. You'll take what you can get. But you certainly wish you had base runners on to capitalize on that long ball and get a little bit more kick out of it. So this almost went against the Dodgers. 2 things here that went against the Dodgers. A .203 team batting average in the World Series, and they won it somehow, but also 17 of their final 18 homers in the playoffs of the solo variety. It's not a great stat, and they somehow found a way. Pitching obviously helped Los Angeles. Yamamoto, Snell, Ohtani, and Glasnow in the postseason, not just the World Series, but in the entire postseason, 113 innings pitched, a 2.55 ERA, a 189 opponent's average, and a 28.5% strikeout percentage. All other Dodger pitchers, including starters, obviously bullpen pitchers, 52 innings pitched, a 4.33 ERA, a 2.72 opponent's average, and a 16.9% strikeout ratio. I mean, the innings that four consumed, the ERA that they posted, the opponent's average that they allowed below 200, and the strikeout percentage of 28.5, close to 30%. Strikeout ratio by those 4 pitchers who were obviously rewarded handsomely with their contracts, but it just goes to show you they were healthy, they were able, and they executed in the playoffs. And it's not to disrespect the other Dodger pitchers. Like, this is okay, but this is really good. And a difference maker with those Blue Jay bats. Game 7, as you know, was the 1st of November 2025. The last time Miguel Rojas had recorded even a base hit was October 1st. But Dave Roberts inserted Rojas into the lineup for the final 2 games of the World Series. The Dodgers were down to their final 2 outs of the season before Rojas homered in the top of the 9th to tie the game, to send it to extras, to give the Dodgers a chance to hit another home run and win the World Series. Game 7, November 1st. The last hit, the last overall hit Rojas even had, was a month prior. And he's the hero with 2 outs remaining. The Dodgers down to their final 2 outs. He extends this World Series, gives them a chance to win it. Crazy, right? How many other times in a baseball game or in a season, but let alone a World Series, does something happen like that? Over the final 2 games of the World Series, the Blue Jays had just 4 hits in 26 at-bats with runners in scoring position. And I don't want to rub salt in the wound of Toronto fans, but this is how many opportunities they had. This is how close they were to not only winning maybe game 6 or 7, but also to kind of blowing the doors off of these games in these situations. They just could not capitalize. A 154 team batting average with runners in scoring position at Rogers Center for game 6 and 7. Vlad Jr. posted a 397, 494, 795 slash line in 18 postseason games in 2025. 8 homers and 15 RBI these playoffs. If you extrapolate that and put it to the span of a 162-game season, that's on pace for 72 homers and 135 RBI over a full regular season if he were to play every single game. That's how good Vlad Jr. was in these playoffs, and somebody who was set to become a free agent at the end of this season. But the Blue Jays locked him in. The Blue Jays went from being a last-place team in 2024 in their division to winning the division in 2025 to having a player with this as their statement of the postseason and getting oh so close to absolutely winning it all. Only 4 teams in Major League Baseball history have won 3 consecutive World Series titles. The 1936 through 39 Yankees, the 49 through 53 Yankees, the 72 through 74 Oakland Athletics, and the 98 to 2000 Yankees. And that brings us to what's next for these Dodgers. Because you can't win 3 in a row unless you go back-to-back. And they've done that in 24 and in 25. This will become the narrative. A lot of people already feel like they are at least frontrunners to get back to the World Series. Winning it, a different story. And we can get into the whole conversation of how much they spent and who's on their roster, and I get it. Spending does not equate to guaranteeing a World Series title, but spending definitely opens the door of opportunity, and that's what the Dodgers are seeing right now. You'd have to think it's likely they'll at least play in a World Series next year. I don't know who's going to represent the American League, but this is what they're going to be focusing on. Only 4 teams in history have three-peated in Major League Baseball. Will the Dodgers be the 5th? Those are my takeaways and some crazy numbers, again, all provided by Major League Baseball and the research department at MLB Network. I thought it was a fantastic World Series. I thought it was a unique World Series. I get it. There's going to be inevitable heartbreak, and I know that's what the Jays fans are feeling right now. I feel for them. I also understand the excitement of Dodger fans who, if they lost, think about that conversation. And the bigger they are, the harder they fall. They did just win in 2024, but it would have been seen as failure to some degree. And for the Blue Jays, it felt like maybe an opportunity wasted to some degree. I feel and understand both sides, but from the spectating standpoint, what a very interesting World Series. I don't know that we will see one like that again for many years. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Also, thumbs up while you're down there. Really appreciate that. Helps me, this video, and this channel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I would love to see you back here next time.